Today we're going to be talking about equivalent fractions. Now we've been doing fractions like before break, and now we're going to be going back to fractions, but today we're going to be talking about something in particular, and that is equivalent fractions. So let's go ahead and open your flip notebooks, please, to your notes or your vocabulary section, and copy down in your notes exactly what I have on this board. I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, as you can see, equivalent fractions are very easy to remember. They are simply fractions that have the same value. Fractions that have the same value. Now, we talked a little bit about this in class before you left for spring break, but let's go ahead and review just a little bit. For example, 1/2 is an equivalent fraction to 2/4. Let me show you how that looks on a couple of pies. Okay, if I have 1/2 of a pie, this is 1/2. Okay, the numerator of 1 means I have one piece. The denominator of 2 means the pie has been cut into 2 equal parts. So this is 1/2. Now let's take a look at what 2/4 looks like. If I cut the pie into 4 equal parts and I eat 2 of those, okay, you can see that this and this are the same amount of pie. So 1/2 is an equivalent fraction to 2/4. Let's go ahead and take a look at other equivalent fractions. Okay, go ahead and in your note section or your vocabulary area, write these things down. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this. You can see up here that I have a whole list of fractions. 1/2, 2/4, 3/6, 4/8, 5/10, and 6/12. What do you notice about the denominators, which remember are the bottom numbers? What do you notice about the denominators in all of these fractions? What I notice is that they are all even numbers. What can we say about the numerator and the denominator? When you look at the numerator and compare it to the denominator in every fraction, what do you notice? Compare this to this. What do you notice about those two numbers? Compare this to this. What do you notice about those two numbers? Compare this to this. What do you notice about those two numbers? If you said that the numerator is half of the denominator, then you got it right. Okay, if you take a look at all of these fractions, you'll notice that 4 is half of 8. 3 is half of 6. 5 is half of 10. So here's my next question. Is 20, I don't know if you can read that anymore, is 20/40 equal to 1/2? If all of these are equivalent fractions, would 20/40 also be an equivalent fraction to 1/2? Think about what we know. Is the denominator an even number? Is the numerator and the denominator compared, like this is half of this? If your answer is yes to both of those questions, then yes. 20/40 is equivalent to 1/2. Let's talk a little bit about what that means. Now down here you're going to notice that I have some other fractions. I have a missing number, and that's what we're going to try to find today. Okay, I have a missing number above the 60, but I know that it is equivalent to 1/2. So what number would be half of the 60? Many of you may have guessed it by now, and that number is 30. How do I actually get the 30 is my question. Well, if I have 60 and I want to get down, I have to divide it by 2. If I divide, take that back. If I have, we're going to start with a small fraction. I have 2 and I want to get up to 60. What do I have to do? I have to take the 2 times 30 to get 60. If you take the bottom times a number, you must also take the top times the exact same number. So if I have 2 times 30 equals 60, I must have 1 times 30. What does that equal? That equals 30. Makes my numerator 30. Let's look at it down here in a different way. Here I have my 1/2 fraction again, but I'm looking for an equivalent fraction over here. Now, if you remember anything about multiplication, whenever you take a number and you times it by 1, the answer is that number. So if you have the number 2 and you times it by 1, the answer is 2. It's equal. It's an equivalent number. It works the same with fractions. We're going to take this fraction and we're going to times it by 1, which means we're going to times it by 3/3. You could times it by 4/4, 5/5, 6/6, 7/7. It wouldn't matter because all of those fractions are equivalent to 1. So we're going to take 1/2 and we're going to times it by 3/3. What we do is take 1 times 3 and 2 times 3. So 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2. They are the same because all we did was take this number, times it by 1, and we get an answer. Whenever you times a number by 1, you get an answer that is equivalent to that number. So we know that 1/2 must be equivalent to 3/6. We're going to go ahead and move on and go right into our practice book. So go ahead and get your practice book out. Okay. I have a few practice problems here for you. The first one is 2/3 times n over n. Now, since they're the same letter, that means they're going to be the same number, equals 4/6. So what number could I multiply this by in order to get this? When you figure it out, write it here. The next one is 2/3 is the same as something over 6. What is that something? The next one, 5/8 times 3/3 equals what? Okay. In this case, we're not going to have n over n. It's going to be n over x because those are going to be two different numbers. Okay. The last one, 5/8 is the equivalent to 15 over n. What is the n? Try to figure those out. Now remember what I said. Whatever you do to the top number, you must also do to the bottom number. So if you take a number and you times it by something else, let's say example in this one, if I take the top and I times it by this, I also have to take the bottom and times it by the exact same number. Remember that when you get into these. Whatever you do to the top, you must also do to the bottom. So go ahead and see if you can solve those. Put those in your book. And make sure to write down any questions. I'm sure you'll have a few of questions for me tomorrow when we come to class. Have a great night.